From the heart of America, where hard work, freedom, and faith still define who we are. From the farms to the factories, from small towns to city streets, this is the fight for the soul of our nation.
We're watching Democrats attack democracy. Do not be fooled.
The strength, the grit, the greatness of the American spirit, all right here.
The left wanted power, not peace, but there's a resistance rising. A generation saying enough, enough. We've tried it their way, and it failed.
The Steve Gruber Show with your host, Steve Gruber, starts right now.
All right, let's charge into another brand new hour here of the Steve Gruber Show, having you on board. I appreciate it. As we fight for you from the foxhole of freedom every single day, let's get in there, roll up our sleeves, put America first. Here are three big things you need this hour. Number one, the Democrats' partial government shutdown that impacts funding for the Coast Guard and TSA not going well for them. People are getting stuck in line for 4 hours at a time at some airports. We'll talk about it. Number two, the suspects arrested in the attempted bombing of pro-Trump rally-goers in New York City admitted to police they are ISIS-inspired and ISIS supporters. And trust me, there's more to come like this. And number three, the war in Iran is continuing, with a seventh American reportedly dying, maybe an eighth now, from injuries sustained by an attack in Saudi Arabia several days ago. It is a high price to pay, but from where I sit, this is the president doing what he has needed to do, and we have needed to do for 47 years. As a result of the Strait of Hormuz being effectively closed for a few days, not by Iranian strikes, but rather by fear, and then a stunt by Lloyd's of London to revoke all insurance on the ships, was among the factors that drove oil prices to almost $120 a barrel overnight Sunday into Monday morning. But the truth is this, as I reported on all my social media platforms, X, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok, among others, there was simply no justification for the 80% rise in the price of oil. None. It was speculation, manipulation, and fear. Then yesterday, the price of oil collapsed $40, all the way down to $83 a barrel. In fact, it fell during the 1 hour I was hosting America's Voice Live during the afternoon from $96 to $83 in just an hour. So what was really going on? Market manipulation. And the oil companies shamelessly pursuing a massive payday at your expense and mine. They should be held to account for that reckless action. They should be. There is no supply and demand issue at all. None. In fact, both oil reserves and gas reserves are in great shape right now, not just here, but globally. Except for maybe China, that is still feeling the impact of its black market Venezuelan oil being stopped when the U.S. took out the dictator Maduro. And now, Iranian oil that was also being moved on the black market to China has stopped, at least for now. But Donald Trump says he doesn't want that to continue. He wants to help China. The fact is this. There was no underlying mathematical reason for oil to spike like that, except that speculators and the big oil companies wanted that to happen, and now it has crashed back to the low $80 range. And remember, under Joe Biden, oil reached $139 a barrel. I don't remember Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries screaming about that. Do you? No, because that never happened. Meanwhile, the war continues. And there will not be an end until Iran surrenders unconditionally, as President Trump is demanding, or the citizens there rise up and take their country back. Marco Rubio, clear on the ongoing military strategy in Iran and what these attacks are supposed to accomplish. Here he is.
This mission are clear, and it's important to continue to remind the American people of why it is that the greatest military in the history of the world is engaged in this operation. It is to destroy the ability of this regime to launch missiles, both by destroying their missiles and their launchers, destroy the factories that make these missiles, and destroy their Navy. I think we are all seeing right now the threat that this clerical regime poses to the region and to the world. They are trying to hold the world hostage. They are attacking their neighbors. They are attacking neighboring countries, their energy infrastructure, their civilian population. They're attacking embassies. This is a terrorist government. This is a terroristic regime. And we are seeing them conduct terrorism using nation-state elements, using weapons like missiles and one-way attack drones. And the objective of this mission is to destroy their ability to continue to do that. And we are well on our way to achieving that objective every single day with overwhelming force, with overwhelming precision. The military, the United States military, the men and women in uniform are conducting an extraordinary operation.
Yeah. And while the war has created a clear division in America over those support fixing the 47-year-old uranium problem, and those that would have let them get all the way to nuclear capability they're working toward. Big divide. There are some groups that are not wavering in their support. Not at all. CNN now admitting veterans support President Trump and the war in Iran like no others. Listen.
Overall, public, and those who are either currently or have served in the military. Take a look at this Fox News poll that came out during the past week. Net approval rating of the current U.S. military action against Iran. Look at that. Overall, Fox News shows a dead even split. But look at those who served in the military. Significantly higher support for the U.S. military action currently going on in Iran at plus 20 points. That should not be so much of a surprise, because take a look at how they view Trump's foreign policy overall. Again, look at those who served in the U.S. military versus overall. If you look at Trump's foreign policy overall, the net approval rating on that per Fox News, those who served in the military, they like what's going on average. Look at that. The net approval rating plus 8 points for Trump's foreign policy. But look at those overall. Way, way down there at minus 20 points. We're talking about a nearly 30-point gap between those who served in the military and overall. And this split, when it comes to those who served in the military and overall, dates back to Trump's elections, all the way back to 2016. But let's look at the 2024 numbers. Look at this. 2024 results. Those who served in the military, Trump won them by, get this, 31 points. Kamala Harris actually won all other voters by 2 points. And that means, Johnny Berman, that means that Donald Trump only won in 2024 because of support from those who served in the military.
There you go. Those that served in the military support this president and what he's doing, clearly, by definitive margins. And by the way, I mentioned Venezuela and Iran, which have both realized now that President Trump does not issue idle threats. He delivers on what he promises. Which brings me to Cuba, another country that has long been a thorn in our side and almost triggered a nuclear war during the Cuban Missile Crisis back in the early 60s. It's going to fail. And it doesn't appear that President Trump or the United States have to do anything for that to happen. It appears Cuba is very close to collapsing. And remember, I predicted a few weeks ago that the communist government in Havana was within 6 or 8 weeks of failing. Seems I was on the money there again, too. Cuba has reached the tipping point. The tipping point. Protesters now filling the streets there, demanding the government go away. They love Trump, too. Listen to this. It's right at the end of the line. Viva Trump. That's what they're screaming in the streets. Viva Trump. Viva Trump. It's going to fall. And then what? Maybe peace and freedom for that island. Important stuff happening. When I come back, there are so many people out there that have pretty good sources, but there is one that has better sources than anybody else. John Solomon. I'm going to have him weigh in on everything that's going on right now with the United States, with the war in Iran, and beyond. Nobody has a better Rolodex than John Solomon at Just the News, good friend of mine. I'll share some of his thoughts as we continue here. Welcome to it. On a Tuesday, it is The Steve Gruber Show. Now, much of what I learn and what I share with you comes from great sources, but nobody in Washington has a better Rolodex than John Solomon, and I mean nobody. So let's shift gears a bit. Talk about the SAVE Act and foreign powers interfering in our elections. Interference and fraud that dates back decades, but was also in play in 2024. Listen to this.
I think the data that Tulsi Gabbard and John Ratcliffe and Kash Patel have found on foreign interference in the election, particularly foreign interventions in certain electronic systems, by the way, not the voting machines, but other systems that can be used for malinfluence in operations. I think it's one of those moments, if the president spends some time talking to senators whose states may have been targeted, I think he can move votes one by one, and you only have to get to 51. Once you get to 51, we're at 49 in the Senate right now in favor of the Save America Act. The president every day talks about it, every day on Truth. He had an amazing post overnight about it. I think this is one of those things where, hey, even if you don't agree with the president, you've been fighting. Do you really want to find out that your state might have been intruded upon by a foreign power and you didn't know about it for 5-6 years? And when you look at what the intrusion is, it's pretty clear what the foreign power wants to have the capability to do. They want to do ballot box stuffing. What's the best way to make sure that ballot box stuffing, which goes all the way back to Tammany Hall and Chicago-style politics, voter ID and citizenship really make it hard to ballot box stuff. And so I think the president has an opportunity to go senator by senator and move that vote along. There will be some Democrats that will be deeply concerned about what the intel community has known. By the way, some of the people who were most forthcoming about this were people in the Biden administration and in the intelligence community who said, I can't believe that the Trump people didn't know about this. We learned about it. Of course, they didn't say anything. But the idea that the Biden administration knew of this for 4 years should concern us all.
Yeah, and let's be clear about this. It has nothing to do with Russia. The foreign power is China. China. Which brings me to the next election, the midterms. Will they be secure? Well, the only way to guarantee that is with the Save America Act for election integrity. John Thune, the Senate Majority Leader, who has promised to get the bill up for a vote, but so far that has not happened. Senator Kennedy says the SAVE Act can pass through reconciliation, but is not sure the GOP has the guts to do that. Here he is.
Well, the Senate is notoriously slow. Sometimes it takes us months to get nothing done. But the SAVE Act is a priority. I'm a co-author. John, I agree with everything the president said in his tweet, though I haven't seen it. John Thune has promised to bring the bill to the floor. I don't know when he's going to do that, but he is going to do that. I anticipate it will be in the next few weeks. Will it pass? I think so. It just depends. We've got some free range. The Democrats will be against it, but we've got some free range chickens on the Republican side, and we're going to have to go gather them up.
So to get to 60, though, is the thought that this would be a reconciliation bill so you don't have to get to the 60? Is there a single Democrat? Are there several Democrats who would vote with you on the SAVE?
I would do it through reconciliation. We could short circuit all of this, but I'm in a minority. I have chased Senator Thune, my good friend, like he stole Thanksgiving to try to get him to do a reconciliation. This would be perfect for reconciliation.
Okay. I also want to touch on the economy because you heard Senator Warren.
All right, we'll skip that part. Chasing John Thune like he stole Thanksgiving dinner, right? All right, so reconciliation. There's another way to get it done. The talking filibuster, reconciliation, ways to thread the needle. In the meantime, Democrats want zero accountability when it comes to elections. They want nothing to do with voters having ID and proving they are citizens and eligible to vote, which, of course, is why they allowed and promoted open borders for 4 full years under the Biden administration that was run by radicals. Democrats are petrified, actually, that ICE will be at polling places. Now, why is that? Listen to Hakeem Jeffries.
Completely and totally out of control group of people. It's the reason why we are in a DHS shutdown right now, because Republicans have refused to agree to the type of bold, transformative, meaningful, and dramatic reforms we are demanding in order for the Department of Homeland Security funding bill to move forward. And I won't go through all of the demands, much of which we've talked about repeatedly in the public, but one of those demands is keep ICE out of sensitive locations. And we've defined that as schools, houses of worship, hospitals, and polling sites. We want an explicit prohibition that ICE can go nowhere near any polling sites in the United States of America. It's one of our demands. We're not going to bend on it.
Now, why is that? Why would you care if ICE was around polling places? Oh, you mean illegals would be afraid to vote? Oh, I see, Leader Jeffries. Oh, and by the way, Democrats are the odds-on favorites to win the midterms right now, but that is subject to change, and it has already been a kinetic year. But the numbers are not too bad for Trump, despite you hearing otherwise. President Trump more popular than his predecessors, according to CNN. Listen to this.
Republicans love Donald Trump more than any president's own party supporters loved him at this particular point. Just take a look here. Okay, own party supporters, 21st century presidents, own party approval about at this point in the second term. Bush was at 77%. Obama was at 77%. Look at this. 86% of Republicans approve of the job that Donald Trump is doing at this point. That is higher than either Obama or Bush had within their own party at this point. Trump's magic touch has not seemed to wear off yet when it comes to the Republican base.
And what kind of approval are we talking about here?
Okay, so we're talking about overall approval here. How about the strongly approved, not just like, but love. Okay, we're going to look at these same presidents again. Strong approval among your own party's base. What you see here is Trump is the only one who gets a majority at this point in their presidency. Obama was at 48%. Bush was at 47%. You see here Trump at 53%. Not as high as overall approval rating, but still getting a majority of the Republican base, at least in the average of polls, to say that they still.
There it is. But if Democrats win, they have one plan: impeach Donald Trump. That's it. Hate Donald Trump is their only platform. They have nothing else. When gas and oil come down, which they will over the next few weeks, things will look a bit different, I promise you. This is The Steve Gruber Show. How about some fun news for a moment, huh? How about that? How about some fun news just for a moment? The Freedom 250, it'll be the Grand Prix event to be held in D.C. on the nation's capital streets. Fast, exciting, loud, and free. Free. They announced yesterday that fans can go to the Freedom 250 no charge. And by the way, any money made that's left over will go to D.C. area charities. They're not making any money on it. They're keeping no money on it. They've created a nonprofit for this race only, And this will be a big spectacle, and I love these races. They are loud and fast and exciting. The cars go shoo, 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 shoo. Really fun to watch. Really fun to watch. And again, if you want to go to the nation's capital to enjoy this race, let's see, August 23rd is the date. Put it down in your calendar, August 23rd, all right? And you can enjoy it at no charge. It's pretty exciting stuff, actually, all right? A lot of people today are eating less, and that makes nutrition more important than ever. Longevity Wellness helps fill the gaps with a simple daily shake packed with protein, collagen, omega-3s, probiotics, and colostrum. It's supplemental nutrition designed to support muscles, gut health, brain function, and immunity. Learn more at longevitywellness.co. Use the promo code Gruber to save. That's longevitywellness.co. The promo code is Gruber. We use it in this household every single day. So there you have it. And let's see, what else we got? Oh, Yamaha leaving California. Another company, another big name company saying we're out of here. They're going to Kennesaw, Georgia from Cypress, California. After more than 5 decades in the state of California, they said, no, we're out. Too much regulation, too much taxes, too much government nonsense. How many corporations have to leave California, pack up and leave, and say we've had it before they figure it out there? Well, apparently a few more. Yamaha, the latest, going to Georgia. Georgia, collecting companies one after another. Tennessee, Georgia, Texas, Florida. Trust me on this when I tell you Georgia is not a blue state, not at all. The midterms there are going to be interesting to watch, that's for sure. I'll take a break and be right back. It is the Steve Gruber Show. All right, let's set aside, shall we? Let's set aside the war, the economics, the chaos, the division for a few minutes here. Talking about a story of faith with you here today. God is the same yesterday as he is today as he is tomorrow. It does not change, right? My next guest, though, was an atheist for years, apparently. Dr. Michael Guillen Worked at ABC News as a science editor for 14 years, taught physics at Harvard and so much more. And then he dove into AI, right? And then he found the invisible everywhere. It links science, Christianity, and it's a movie that's coming out. All right, and we're going to talk to him. Doctor, good morning.
Good morning, Steve. It's so good to be here with you, my brother.
Good to have you. All right. 14 years inside the belly of the mainstream media beast. But you liked it. You said you got bored with it after a while. I understand that. And you had other things you wanted to do. This is one of the things you wanted to do. You were an atheist, right? Non-believer.
Yeah.
What happened?
Right. Well, you know, I fell in love with science in the second grade, and there were two things that I believed, Steve, and that was, first of all, logic is superior to faith. So the idea of believing in God, having faith in God, just wasn't important to me. It just didn't make any sense. And the other thing I believed was that what we see is everything there is. In other words, my motto was seeing is believing. Then I got to Cornell, where I was a grad student. I earned a PhD in physics, math, and astronomy. And when I dug deeper and deeper into my study of the universe, I discovered I was like dead wrong on both counts. First of all, faith is a necessary prerequisite to any healthy life. And in fact, it takes faith to do science. You have to believe in the scientific method if you're going to be a decent scientist. And then the other thing is I discovered that actually we can only see 5% of what's out there, about 95%. Listen to this. 95% of the observable universe is invisible to us. So the whole idea of seeing is believing, I had to ditch that. And so I decided that I wanted to make a movie based on my experience, my journey from atheism to believing in God. And so I had to figure out a way, how do I make the invisible universe, which is 95% of what's out there, how do I make that visible? And so I chose to use AI, and the results are stunning. The movie comes out April 8th on theinvisibleeverywhere.com. I can't be more excited about it, Steve.
Yeah, it's an AI-generated documentary. So you use the latest cutting-edge technology to say, you know, it's all connected back to God.
Yeah. But you know the best part? The best part is we costed this movie out, was about, to do the special effects, it would be like $100 million, right? I did this movie for less than $20,000 using AI. And I believe that I'm actually the first person to make an AI-generated movie by myself on my desktop computer using consumer-level AI video generators. So it's really quite not only an interesting movie, but it's a groundbreaking movie. We think it's historic. So it's very, very exciting.
20 grand.
Yeah, no Hollywood studio, no
Yeah.
Hollywood crew, no Hollywood overlord. It was just me literally sitting in this room that you're seeing me in right now for a year, banging out this movie. And the results, I have to just say, and I'm not patting myself on the back, Steve, but a few people who have already seen a preview of the movie say it's just stunning. It's fantastic. One of the women said it was just transcendent. So I'm really excited for the public to see the universe they've never seen before and to follow my journey from atheism to believing in God and see how science points to the existence of God clearly, unequivocally.
The most fully documented existence in human history, that being Jesus Christ. Most documented existence in human history, right? No question about it. The best-selling book of all time by far, the Holy Bible. No question.
The Bible.
And lately, a bit of resurgence in the Holy Bible. So, you know, sales are increasing, which is good news, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely. And, you know, I was in grad school when I was challenged to read the Bible. I had explored Hinduism and Buddhism and transcendental meditation and Judaism and Islam. I had done all of that. And then a young co-ed, I tell the story in my book, Believing is Seeing, which the movie is based on. And it was on Valentine's Day, and it led to her challenging me to read the Bible. I didn't really want to do it, Steve. I thought, I've been there, done that. I've heard about the Bible all my life. There's nothing there. I read it. It changed my life forever, especially the New Testament. And the way Jesus spoke reminded me of quantum mechanics. It's kind of upside down logic. It's what I call translogical thinking. And he's the only sacred figure that I came across in all my years of studying all the world's major religions that jibed with my science. And that's why, as a scientist, I have no trouble being a Christian. It is the one religion that syncs up best of all with modern science. It's quite a story, and I tell it in the movie.
Yeah. Share one story. That was a transformational moment on Valentine's Day, clearly. When the door opened and God said, I'm here.
Yeah.
But give me another transformational moment along this journey when your eyes are open and you say,
Yeah.
I was wrong for all these years. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because what I discovered many years, I'm a hard-headed intellectual, Steve, and so even though the New Testament in particular made a very strong impression on me, it's not like I dropped down on my knees and said, "Praise Jesus, I'm a Christian." No, I didn't. It took me many, many more years, and I remember one evening in particular where I had a transformative experience. I mean, it was a palpable experience. And what I learned that afternoon, and again, I tell that story in the book Believing is Seeing. Um, I discovered the difference between believing and surrendering. The Christian worldview has this concept of surrendering, where you don't just believe in God. I mean, the devil believes in God. That's no big deal, right? But so when I got to the point where I believed in God, that was a milestone for me as an atheist. But I had to go one more step, and that is to say, trust God, trust Jesus with all my life, with everything. Just give it up to Him and stop trying to use my mind to control my life. And that evening, I fell into bed and I had a palpable experience. I mean, it changed my life incredibly. We ended up adopting a beautiful boy because the Lord led us there, and he's the apple of my eye now. I think that was probably, in retrospect, the biggest transformative moment of my life. The difference between believing and trusting. That's a huge, huge difference. And a lot of Christians, even who say they believe in Jesus and all that, haven't gotten to that point. I'm not saying that judgmentally, Steve,
I
but I've
understand.
observed that over the years. Yeah.
Yeah. A
It's a
lot of
big deal.
people in your profession, they look at science as if
Yeah.
science is God. We see that today with
Yeah.
the Green New
Oh, yeah.
Deal and global warming and climate change. They observe these things, which are Marxist principles, by the way,
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
their God, don't they?
Yeah.
And that's a problem. Science blinds people sometimes, doesn't it?
Oh yeah, I mean there are colleagues of mine, sad to say, who don't see science merely as a way of studying the universe. I see it as a way of studying God's creation and worshiping God through my science. There are scientists who have kind of distorted it and turned it into a religion, and I was that way. And I'm not angry at them. I actually love them,
Understood.
and right? Because for me, all those years when I was an atheist, Steve,
Yep.
science was my God. I was a scientific monk for the first several years of my career at Cornell as a grad student. I was literally a scientific monk.
But then you saw the light, and AI helped
I
you
did.
produce a movie. All right, so the movie is The Invisible Everywhere. I've got about 20
Yeah.
seconds here. Where can they find it?
Yeah. Okay, real simple. Theinvisibleeverywhere.com. You can go there now and you see a trailer, but it comes out April 8th. It premieres worldwide. I can't wait for people to see the universe they have never seen before, courtesy of AI.
Dr. Michael Guillen, what a story. Thank you for sharing. Thank you very much.
Praise Jesus.
Praise Jesus. There you have it. Michael Guillen. Something different, right? To make you feel good. I'll be right back. Continuing on, I've got this crazy story here today of a kid, 19 years old, I call him a kid, stealing a house from a dead guy. Yeah, you know, I read these stories, I say, now how does this happen? But here's this 19-year-old kid from Riverside, Illinois, accused of forging the deed to a Burbank home he did not own and selling it through a fake real estate entity. Everything was fake. But he was able to pull this off. Happened April of last year. Pretty incredible story. Joining me now is Tom Simon, spokesman for Home Title Lock, a former FBI special agent, 26 years of experience in the field investigating white-collar crime, counterterrorism, and national security matters, now a licensed private investigator and forensic accountant. He leads Simon Worldwide Investigations. He specializes in fraud and investment. Tom, welcome back.
Hey, Steve, thank you so much for having me on. And you are right. This is a wild story.
Yeah, here's a kid. I mean, and I say kid, but 19 years old, gets down to the Cook County Clerk's office, moves this fraud forward. Lay this case out for us.
All right, yeah. So when you think about crimes committed by teenagers, home title theft isn't the first thing that comes to mind. But as you said, here we are. So we have this 19-year-old kid in Riverside, Illinois. His name's Mohammed Salem. He forged a deed to a house in Burbank, Illinois, transferring ownership to a fake real estate company that the boy created. So then he files the deed with the Cook County Clerk's office, which of course does no due diligence to verify the authenticity. And then young Muhammad is the legal owner of this house. So he wastes no time and he sells the place for $72,000 online, and he receives that money into his bank account via wire transfer. Now, as you mentioned, the rightful owner of the property was dead, but this guy had heirs, and they're eventually notified by the new owners and the title company, and they contact the police. Muhammad has been charged with theft and forgery, and he's currently awaiting trial there in Illinois. Now, the rightful owner of the property, the victim's heirs, now has to go to battle with both the new owner, who bought this place in good faith,
right,
and the title company that allowed this to occur, and they are going to spend a fortune on attorneys trying to make this right, because that's not what the criminal justice system set up to do.
Yeah,
and
everybody gets burned here. Everybody's getting burned here. I mean, first of all, it's remarkable this kid was able to go online and create this false identity. And then, as you pointed out, the new buyers, they have no reason to question it. They've got the title company there. They've got everything in line. They buy this house, think they got a good deal at $72,000, I'm guessing. And all of a sudden, they've got a train wreck, don't they?
Yeah, I mean, that's why you get title insurance for this exact problem. And everybody involved is going to end up spending a fortune on this thing to unwind it because little Muhammad was opportunistic.
And so what happens? Most states don't address this. What happens to young Muhammad? I mean, they're pursuing him in this investigation and crimes that he's committed, but what really happens?
Well, I mean, again, he's being charged with theft and forgery, but he's a 19-year-old kid, and while he's legally an adult, my guess he doesn't have much of a criminal history, he's going to get a slap on the wrist. And, and so, I mean, I bet you the victims in this case are going to bed at night wishing they had home title lock.
Yeah, absolutely true. Look, and here's what I've talked about with you on this program before. The world is so interconnected. You find one internet company that'll do this for you, another internet company that'll do that. You send the documents down to the county. They don't care. It's not their job to figure out whether it's real or not real. They don't spend any time on that. It's not their job. And trust me, I'm not going to take a shot at the government employees, but look, they got other things to do, all right? We'll just say that. And so you're on your own out there in the Wild West and on the internet with the ability to create through AI or other means, whatever you need. This has got to be going on a lot more than just this case.
Well, I've been coming on your show for a few weeks now, telling a different story every week. We got a stack of them this high at Home Title Lock. And so this is a real crime problem here. It's not necessarily always quantified because it's not a crime, home title theft unto itself. They're charging it using fraud statutes and theft statutes and forgery statutes. And a lot of the times people walk into the police station and they get told this is a civil matter and just sent on their way.
And as you pointed out, this is an ongoing, this snowballs, Tom, because once it starts, then the attorneys get involved. And look, the attorneys love this. They get to build their billable hours. I mean, they're the winners in this deal like they often are, the attorneys are, but it's an ongoing perpetual loss because they don't just unwind easily. You've got to prove who did what, did it to whom when, how was this fraud, and on and on. I mean, I can just ring the hours in my head looking at this. I mean, the expense to the attorneys might make it not even worthwhile.
Exactly. I mean, the victim gets screwed. The title company is going to get screwed. The new owner is going to get screwed. Everyone is losing on this thing except for the lawyers, which is why it'd be nice to kind of outsource that expense to a company like Home Title Lock.
Absolutely true. So tell me about what would Home Title Lock, what would have happened if Home Title Lock had been in play here prior to all this going down?
Yeah, I think this is a useful thought experiment. So if, in this case, if the owner of the home or his heirs had Home Title Lock on the house, Home Title Lock would be monitoring 24/7 the status of that title. If there was any change in that title due to this quitclaim deed that Muhammad filed, they would have been notified immediately when that posted on the county clerk's website. And then if, God forbid, Muhammad is able to sell the house before they do anything, there's a US-based restoration team at Home Title Lock who's going to spend $1 million in attorney fees and whatever other costs to restore ownership of that home to the rightful people at no additional cost to the subscriber. It's a no-brainer. I subscribe to it. Really, anyone who has equity in their home should.
I subscribe to it as well. Easy for me to say, Tom. Greatly appreciate you being here as always, my friend. We'll hear another story soon, folks. Trust me, it can happen. Tom, thank you.
Thank you, Steve.
Now, you can check on your home's title today and make sure you're not already a victim. Use the promo code Gruber at HometitleLock.com to make sure your title is still in your name. You know, when I was first asked, where's the title to your house? I'm like, I have no idea. Who checks on such things? HometitleLock.com, promo code Gruber. You'll also get a free title history report and a free 14-day trial of their $1 million triple lock protection that Tom just outlined for you. And that's 24/7 monitoring of your title, urgent alerts to any changes. And if fraud does happen, like he said, they'll spend up to $1 million to make sure it's fixed. You don't have to pay those attorneys. Home Title Lock will take care of it for you. It's really an important thing. Go to HometitleLock.com now. Use the promo code Gruber. HometitleLock.com, promo code Gruber. HometitleLock.com. Make sure you're protected. Do you know where your title is? I'll ask you the same question. Serious question. Do you know? If not, you probably should. HometitleLock.com. Promo code is Gruber. I'll take a break and be right back. This is The Steve Gruber Show. All right, so much to talk about and so little time every day, but I'm glad you're here. Look, you can follow us live on, let's see, YouTube, great place to be, where you can see the brand new episode of Forgotten America with my latest episode, Ivy and I, and Peter Schweitzer, talking about the invisible coup. The invisible coup. You got a preview for him, Anthony? He's going to pull it up for you. Give us a little taste of Peter Schweitzer. There's where you can go find it, by the way, on YouTube.
There's a guy, Alejandro Robles, who serves in the Mexican Congress, apparently lives in Ontario, California. But in 2025, he was going across the United States, in his own words, quote, organizing the militancy, end quote, against the Trump administration. So he was meeting at places like People's Forum with Antifa-type supporters. He was trying to get migrants politically active in the United States, legal and illegal. He wanted them out protesting on the streets. So these are hardcore activists. One of them, a senator, Senator Ruiz, she lives in Arizona, has introduced legislation to make Mexicans in California a state of Mexico. So this is all going on. We're not paying attention. We think of Mexico as kind of hapless, just kind of a neighbor that's kind of troubled. But I think the facts are far different.
Our troubled neighbor, Mexico. Yeah. You can catch episodes of Forgotten America. They drop brand new every Monday morning at 9 a.m. Susan Kokinda is going to be on with us. A lot of attention that she's getting lately. Promethean Action. So it's one great episode after another. If you missed last week, Tiffany Cianci talking about private equity and how they're gaming the system to put in monopolies regionally on funeral homes and veterinary offices and HVACs and adventure parks. The invasion of America that's happening right under our nose, right there. You can see that with what you're seeing with Peter Schweitzer and then Susan Kokinda coming up. It's one great conversation after another. All you do is sign up right here, YouTube, all right? Click the QR code. Become a subscriber. Make sure you hit the like button. Tell your friends. Gather around, everybody. It's time for stories, real stories. A lot still to cover here today as we continue for 2 more hours of the Steve Gruber Show. Glad to see you here. Of course, I'll also see you on America's Voice Live on Real America's Voice at 3 o'clock this afternoon. More after this.
From the heart of America, where hard work, freedom, and faith still define who we are. From the farms to the factories, from small towns to city streets, this is the fight for the soul of our nation.
We're watching Democrats attack democracy. Do not be fooled.
The strength, the grit, the greatness of the American spirit, all right here.
The left wanted power, not peace, but there's a resistance rising. A generation saying enough, enough. We've tried it their way, and it failed.
The Steve Gruber Show with your host, Steve Gruber, starts right now.
All right, and welcome back as we continue fighting for you from the foxhole of freedom, digging deeper to give you insight and analysis you're just not going to get anywhere else. Three big things for this hour. Number one, President Trump telling Australia to absolutely not send the Iranian women's soccer team back home as they will face certain death for refusing to sing that nation's national anthem. Trump says America will take them in. Number two, the CIA furious. Backlash coming their way after it was revealed that decades-old research show antiparasitics like ivermectin can stop cancer in its tracks. The documents were first written in, get this, 1951. Revealed yesterday. Number three, let's take a look at something important, and that the candidates that are running for big offices this year, none bigger than the race for U.S. Senate in Texas, of course. Democrats feel they might be able to turn the place blue. Of course, they always think that, right? Molly Hemingway cuts the Democrat nominee in the Texas Senate race to pieces, just to pieces. Listen to this.
Yeah, I just want to point out really quickly, I'm not sure Democrats are in an enviable position. People always think maybe we can turn Texas blue. And they just nominated someone who led the fight to trans children at the state legislature, who believes that abortuaries should be in every federal courthouse in the country and that abortionists should be federal employees. And he said that God is non-binary. This would be difficult to elect this person in San Francisco. The idea that you would put someone in Texas with these views is it's going to be very difficult for Democrats. Now, it is true that this issue with the SAVE Act really cuts to the issue in the battle in the Republican Party in Texas. The establishment very much likes John Cornyn. He's been here for a quarter of a century, and they like working with him. The base is very frustrated that he's been oppositional to President Trump. He has not led the fight on issues that they care about, whether it's the border or election security. And so they are seeming to be behind Ken Paxton. And the fact that John Cornyn couldn't wrap this up to avoid a runoff is a problem. But either way, whoever's in there is going to have no trouble, I think, beating James Tallarico.
Yeah, James Tallarico, the Democrat nominee to be the next governor of the state of Texas. All right. How about James Tallarico in his own words, outlining what he thinks is most important? Trans kids and the dangerous white men in politics. The dangerous white men in politics. This is what is most important to this guy. I can't make it up. Here it is.
You know, we use the word privilege a lot. I think maybe a better word, at least in this conversation, is responsibility. Because I think you and I have a greater responsibility to love our enemies. So that those trans kids that show up at the Texas Capitol to just advocate for their basic humanity, so they don't have to. You know, I can oftentimes connect with some of my Republican colleagues because we share a lot, right? For the most part, the Republican caucus here in Texas is white, older men, straight, cisgendered men from small towns. That tends to be, you know, then the Democratic caucus is everybody who's not that. So it's kind of a mess of a coalition because it's everyone who doesn't fall into that bucket. It's like, we don't have much in common except for the, you know.
Another made-up word, cisgender. I mean, just people, men. And so Democrats have a real problem in Texas. Pretty clear. Molly Hemingway outlined it pretty clearly. Here's a radical that would have trouble getting elected in San Francisco. Talking about transgender kids, abortion doctors should be federal employees. I mean, really? Remember, there was always the rule that federal tax dollars could not be used for abortions until Democrats finally got rid of that because they have no respect for human life. North of the border in Canada, over 100,000 people now have been put to death under the MAID laws. That's Medical Assistance in Dying. MAID, MAID laws. 100,000 have died, 97% of which are white, by the way. 97,000 white people have been put to death in Canada just for those of you keeping score at home. Meanwhile, other problems for the Democrats. Ilhan Omar, now under investigation by the House Oversight Committee for her role in her husband's shady business dealings. James Komar has it. Here it is.
Why are you targeting her when there is a Ilhan Omar, your committee investigation with Ilhan Omar, when there is a process in the House, if people have questions about their conduct, this would go through the Ethics Committee. Why is this under
and I've spoken, I'm glad you asked that question. I've spoken with the Ethics Committee. The Ethics Committee has jurisdiction over members of Congress. The two businesses in question are owned by Ms. Omar's husband. So the Ethics Committee does not have jurisdiction over a spouse, only a member. So that's why we just asked, we would have questions. I don't think anyone would.
It would pertain to her overall finances, because that is listed on her financial disclosure report, even though that's her spouse.
We've run this by the Ethics Committee, and we think this is the appropriate route.
They've run it by the Ethics Committee. This is the route they're going, right? This is the route they're going. Meanwhile, the mainstream media goes after President Trump every day. They do. They go after President Trump every day. This president is more transparent, more out there, answering more questions than any president in history. Held another press conference yesterday, in fact. And Jonathan Karl, one of his biggest critics, an openly left-of-center journalist, and I use that term incredibly loosely, of ABC News, admits that President Trump is more accessible than any president in history. He's done this for quite a while. Jonathan Karl, who routinely goes after this president, admits openly, you know, he's easier to talk to than anybody else. Listen.
I've covered 5 different presidents. I have never seen one other than Donald Trump who regularly takes phone calls from reporters. So I thought I would talk a little bit about that. I've spoken to him over the phone 3 times since the military operation, the war against Iran started. In each of those cases, I simply called him and he answered. Some of the conversations are short. Some of them can be quite lengthy. I talked to him today during the middle of the afternoon, and the call lasted for about 20 minutes. When I called, I was actually calling to ask him because if he was firing Kristi Noem, because ABC News was about to report that had happened. And it turned out that he was, as I was talking to him, reviewing the statement that he would put out saying that she was leaving office. And he told me he was sitting there with Marco Rubio, and he started to read the statement to me, and then he pressed send and said, look, you can see it now. You can see it now.
Yeah, you can see it now. There it is. He just calls the president and he answers. That's not normal, folks. Water alone, not enough for serious hydration. Performalite gives balanced sea salts, electrolytes for better fluid absorption. At the same time, you get the antioxidant boost of the superfoods in its phytonutrient blend. Performalite helps restore minerals like sodium, magnesium, and calcium, boosting recovery, reducing cramping. And Estrella Cherry supports immune health. No sugar, no dyes, just clean performance support only from my good friends at Victory Nutrition International. Nutrition that gets in. You can get 20% off at vni.life/Gruber, vni.life/Gruber. When you subscribe, you get 20% off and free shipping forever. Forever. vni.life/Gruber. Get the best vitamins. There's only 6 products to choose from, not 100. They've concentrated their efforts into 6 scientifically formulated supplements. You're going to love these. vni.life/Gruber. I'll be right back. All right, let's dive right back into it now, shall we? Glad to have you along for the conversation as we work through another busy day here. So much to talk about. Corey Brewer is a Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty's deputy counsel. She joins me now. Corey, good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
A lot of conversations. In fact, the Save America Act includes no transgender mutilation surgery for children, according to the president. That's what he wants. A big Supreme Court ruling says you can't hide gender transition from parents, right? You can't hide that. If Johnny goes to school and wants to be Jenny, you need to discuss that with the parents. You can't secretly transition kids in schools. Important decision. And yet, even though transgenderism and that whole strange chapter is starting to pass, it's still going on in too many places, isn't it?
It is, yeah. And it's so egregious, such a significant violation of parents' rights that many people don't believe this is really happening. But Will has been litigating these cases for years. And as you mentioned, what we just saw at the United States Supreme Court is we had a majority of the justices saying, actually, we do think this probably violates parents' rights, and we think it probably violates their freedom of exercise of religion under the First Amendment. So this wasn't a decision on the merits. It wasn't a final decision, but it is very, very significant.
It's strange to me that there are a whole host of those on the left, politicians. Gavin Newsom in California, where this law was struck down. James Tallarico, the Senate candidate for the Democrats in Texas. All they talk about is transgenderism, as if that's the most important thing that is out there. They talk about this all the time. And for most of us, it's pretty simple. Stop it. We've had detransitioners on this program many times and recently. They get no attention at all in the mainstream media to speak of, almost none. It's like they're the dirty secret of what this really all means. Why do they hide the truth?
Yeah, I think there are people out there that genuinely think they're doing something good for kids, but anyone with common sense knows this is harming children. This ideology, it's good to see a federal administration here that is taking it seriously and wants to define man as man and woman as woman. And beyond that, when you see schools, which is my area of expertise, K-12 education, keeping this a secret from parents. I mean, we had this decision in Mahmoud versus Taylor not long ago, and our law firm came out and said, look, if not letting parents opt out of LGBTQ curricula in the classroom is a violation of their rights, then 100% absolutely secretly transitioning their kids or transitioning children, even socially against their wishes, so referring to them by a different name and pronouns, is also an egregious constitutional violation. You're violating parents' rights to direct the upbringing of their children.
Yeah. So when will this stop? Do we need a federal law here? Where do we go from here? Honestly, and this is part of the SAVE Act, which is voter ID, certifying that you're eligible as an American citizen to vote in the first place, proving your citizenship, and then voter ID, and then this part attached to it. Now, I don't know if it's going to get anywhere because John Thune seems to be dragging his feet, but this has been included in this act, which is pretty significant. That tells you how important it is to the president and his administration. So does it make it?
Yeah, that's a great question. One of the things that we're watching is, are we going to get some clarity from the United States Supreme Court on this issue? And I think we will eventually. There's also cases at the Supreme Court right now that we're waiting to see if the U.S. Supreme Court takes them on the same issue, this gender secrecy issue. And very hopeful here to see the court that say something along the lines of, schools, when you hide this information from parents, when you socially transition students against the will of their parents, that is a violation of parents' rights. And the Supreme Court here is signaling that schools cannot hide major decisions about a child from their parents. So this is really, really good to see. But hopefully we get that decision on the merits, that final decision that is binding for the country. And we see some real change then at the local levels in schools where kids
Corey,
are really
that's really important because you have some states now that have banned all of this. And you have some states like California that continue to push this gender ideology nonsense and think that butchery of little boys and girls is somehow normal. It's not normal. And I go back to these detransitioners. I've talked to so many of them now who say they were just pushed into it. Some had meetings with therapists for as short as 1 hour. 1 hour to decide the whole course of their life. Here, start taking these powerful hormones, start moving forward. It is, well, it's crazy, actually.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Will has actually worked with a transgender psychologist as well, who strongly, very strongly believes that parents need to be involved in this decision, and it should not follow this affirmative model where you just automatically affirm what the minor child believes to be true. Obviously, any parent knows that that is imprudent. These are young children. We need to guide them. We need to direct their upbringing. That's what parents do, right? But the thing here about schools is if they now go against what the U.S. Supreme Court signaled in this Mirabelli case, they need to know that they're risking long, fierce, costly lawsuits. So this, even though it's not a final decision, it is very, very significant. And we issued warnings to districts. We issued notice to parents. You need to, as a parent, opt out of these policies. And as a district, get rid of them. We need to be partnering with parents, not keeping them in the dark.
Time to protect the kids. And I just believe, Corey, we're going to look back at some point and just look at this as a very dark day. A very dark day in American history. Thank you for being here. Keep fighting for what's right. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. All right, there you have it. Corey Brewer from the Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty. I mean, how long does this have to go on? Honestly. How many detransitioners have to stand up before they're actually listened to and heard? 1 hour. 1 hour with a therapist. Oh, yeah. These kids are 12, 13, 14 years old. 1 hour with a therapist. Oh, yeah, you need to do all these things. We've got one of those coming up on the Forgotten American podcast. A detransitioner joins Ivy and I here in a couple of weeks. You're going to want to hear that episode for sure. You can find it all on YouTube, Forgotten America. They drop Monday mornings at 9. I'll be right back. Here's something we're going to dig into. We're going to dig into this deeply in the days to come because this incredibly important story that came out yesterday from the Daily Mail put this out. Here's the headline: CIA faces furious backlash after hidden document with potential cure for cancer is declassified after more than 60 years. A newly surfaced CIA document suggests U.S. intelligence once reviewed research that hinted at a possible cancer treatment more than 60 years ago. Oh, listen to where I go with this. The document, produced February 1951, declassified 2014, summarizes a Soviet scientific paper that examines striking similarities between parasitic worms and tumors, cancerous tumors. The report describes how researchers believe both organisms thrived under nearly identical metabolic conditions and accumulated large reserves of glycogen, a form of stored energy. The research also highlighted experiments showing that certain chemical compounds were capable of targeting both parasitic infections and malignant tumors. One drug, Miracil D, reportedly effective against bilharzia parasites, as well as cancerous growths, hinting that treatments developed for parasites also attack tumors. What I'm getting here is ivermectin, imabendazole, The wellness company has a compound that they put those two things together. These other compounds were found to interfere with nucleic acid production, a process essential for the uncontrolled growth of cancer cells. Parasites and tumors operate on a similar system. And so when you go after parasites, you're also going after cancer potentially. We've known this apparently since 1951. Decades before I was born. And probably you too. Unbelievable. Multi-page deal. The Americans knew, they read it, and then they classified it as confidential. We had this in our hands, and we hid it. CIA, who do they work for exactly? If you're CIA, who do you work for? It's a fair question today. I'll take a break and be right back. You can always find out more at all the social media platforms, X, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, all of them. Hit the like button. I'll be right back. All right, welcome back as we continue through this day. I want to spend a little more time with Peter Schweitzer here. He is our guest this week on Forgotten America with Ivy and I. And he has a brand new book, The Invisible Coup. And he says there are members of the Mexican parliament and others that live in the United States. They live here. Their constituents also in the United States. There are more than 60 consulates. for Mexico in the United States. What do? They give you ID, they give you work permits, they give you CDLs, all of these things. All of these things. And so much more. Listen to this. Here's a preview.
You know, in the early 2000s, illegals were having a hard time in the United States getting bank accounts, driver's licenses, because they didn't have any IDs. So the Mexican consulates in the United States just started issuing Mexican government IDs. And they went to places like San Francisco, where Willie Brown was the mayor, and other progressive cities. And they said, hey, we're offering these as IDs. These are like legitimate IDs. And that led the cities to tell the banks, you need to start accepting these as legitimate forms of ID. Congress never voted on that. The Bush administration, who was in office at the time, had no say in that. The Mexican government just started doing it. And that's really what we're seeing is this exertion of sovereignty, meaning, hey, you know what? We know there's a border there. Not only are we going to, encourage people to cross that border and go work in your country, we're going to actually start taking initiatives and enacting policies in your country that affect our people, and we don't really care what you say about it. So that's the reality of where we are today.
That's the reality. The consulates, like I said, 60 Mexican consulates in America. The second most from any country is 7. That's China. We know how concerned we are about China every day, but what about Mexico exerting sovereignty, in effect, on portions of the United States? And they'll say, well, it's stolen land. Not unless you return the check with interest and make the people whole. We bought California in 1848, and then the Gadsden Purchase shortly thereafter. It's all paid for. And property rights, as established early on, long before America was established, property rights created ownership ideas. There is no stolen land. That is just a fallacy created in recent times by people like Howard Zinn and others who are not historians but are fiction writers. Just keep that in mind. And by the way, it gets worse, says Schweitzer. Here's more.
And in terms of these actors in America, what is their end game? What are they trying to accomplish? I mean, they're here, they're almost acting as if they're like Mexican lobbyists. What do they want to achieve?
It's a great question, Ivy. It's hard to know. I don't think they talk about Reconquista, the retaking of territories they lost. I don't think they actually mean that California or New Mexico or Nevada are going to become states of Mexico. What I think they really mean is that they are going to exert some sovereign control and determine the political destiny of those regions of the United States by turning migrants in the United States into political lobbyists. And by the way, they already brag that they've done this. One of the things I talk about in the book is a meeting that took place at the Oklahoma City, Oklahoma consulate in the end of May of 2024. And this included, so these are diplomats, the Mexican government. They got consular officials from Los Angeles all the way to Orlando and consulates in between to go to Oklahoma City. They brought in senior officials from Mexico City. The foreign minister of Mexico addressed them by video. The other group of people that were there were Democratic Party political activists.
Of course.
And according to the transcript of the meeting, the conversation was about how they had turned California from red to blue. They had turned Arizona from red to blue, and that Republicans were going to learn that if you F around, you're going to find out.
Yeah, and so therefore you get all this transfer of wealth. We've heard a lot recently about the Somalians transferring wealth to their home country. It's gone on for decades with Mexican nationals, much more serious in recent years. People getting government handouts that should not be entitled to them, taking money from you, the American taxpayer, and sending it home to Sonora or wherever in Mexico, right? And some of these folks will have a post office box. They'll come over and check it once a month and then go back because they're getting government checks, United States government checks, or state checks from whatever state they're living in. We're being fleeced. We're being ripped off. And where do the drug cartels fit into all of this? It's another important question that Peter Schweitzer addressed. Where do the drug cartels that are incredibly powerful, and in fact, I would argue probably run Mexico more than the government, where do they fit in? Listen. Number 4.
But the drug cartels have also migrated north of the border in terms of political influence. So there's been a move among progressives in the United States by Bernie Sanders and others to form an international body where progressives in North America and South America will work together. It's called Progressive International. It was founded by Senator Sanders in 2018. It's run by his former foreign policy advisor. His staff does a lot of work with them. AOC, a bunch of congressmen are involved as well. The problem is Progressive International, when you look at the leadership that is involved there, and I go into excruciating detail about this in the book, probably 30% of their leaders are directly tied to the drug cartels. Just no question about it. And what's happened is American progressives, I argue in the book, have embraced the agenda of the drug cartels. So what does Progressive International push for? They push for open borders, which of course was not Bernie Sanders' position 15 years ago, 10 years ago. They push for open borders. The drug cartels want open borders because during the Biden administration, they made more money smuggling people across the border than they did selling drugs.
Yeah. People are worth more than drugs. Unbelievable. Anyhow, Forgotten America, you can find it on YouTube. New episodes drop every Monday. That's Peter Schweitzer, New York Times best-selling author, Clinton Cash, and now Invisible Coup among his accomplishments. And they are many. Eye-opening conversation, to say the least. Make sure you follow on YouTube, become a subscriber, hit the like button, all of those things. And great new episodes will drop every Monday. You can go back to listen to all of them as well. If you deal with knee pain, joint pain, or stiffness, especially when you're driving or sitting for long periods of time, listen to this. You can't take a medical treatment bed with you on the road, but you can keep a QE red light therapy wand right in the glove box or handy. This handheld device uses red and infrared light combined with proprietary quantum energy technology to target pain right where it hurts. No pills, no appointments, just simple targeted relief you can use anytime. I love how portable it is. It's easy to use in just minutes a day. Go to QEstrong.com, use the promo code Gruber. You'll get the QE wand for less than $100. I mean, I don't know how you beat that. This is red light therapy in your hand, less than $100. QEstrong.com. QEstrong.com. Promo code is Gruber. When we come back, talking about the price of oil, it plummeted $40 yesterday because it was all rigged. It's all rigged. Speculators, panic, not supply and demand drove the price to almost $120 early Monday morning. We'll talk about it when we come back. What's the truth about oil and gas supplies in America? We'll be right back. All right, as I told you, right after I saw this price go to $120 early on Monday morning. Sunday into Monday, the price of oil went to just about $120 a barrel. There was no mathematical justification for it. There wasn't. We have big reserves of oil and gasoline in this country. The Middle East accounts for exactly 4% of the oil coming into this country. The Strait of Hormuz, yes, it's been slowed down, but it's certainly not closed. This is speculation, manipulation, and fear driving up the price. Yesterday, it dropped $40 down into the mid-80s again. R.T. Trevino joining me. He's a gas expert. He runs Pecos Country Energy, that is. He's been with us before. R.T., nice to see you this morning. Am I wrong in what I'm saying?
Oh, goodness, Steve. Always great to be on. And yesterday, you were hot, and you were right. You were talking about how the price went up due to, I like to use the word speculation more than fear, but there was definitely some fake fear put into that price yesterday at 120. And when you look at where we closed yesterday at less than $90 a barrel, that is that uncertainty and that speculation that is put into the price of oil, where they think oil and gas companies and producers like Pecos are the ones that dictate this price, when it's actually the individuals on Wall Street that have no idea what's actually going on, what the reserves are doing, and they are just looking for a way to make a quick buck.
Well, there it is. Now, you make them sound like innocent people. I don't think they're innocent at all. I think the oil companies ought to be ashamed of themselves. This was a money grab, a big money grab. I'm going to make a prediction here, RT. The big oil companies are going to post record profits this year. They're going to benefit because they're going to continue to keep that price artificially elevated. Again, only 4% of American oil comes from the Middle East anymore. We produce so much ourselves. Of course, we got Venezuela that's ramping up. They're still a couple years away from maximizing what they can put out, but they're back to 1 million barrels a day. And so this is speculators, manipulators, profit takers, energy companies, and I also think it's people on the world scene who would love nothing more than to kneecap Donald Trump before the midterm elections. Always politics involved, isn't there?
Yeah, there is politics involved, and it's such a shame because oil and gas is such a global commodity, Steve. When you look at who's truly dictating this price of oil, again, you look at the people in New York. The people have no idea what's actually going on. They're the ones that create this fear. You look at the undermining that was done with the insurance companies. This president administration secured a safety path through the Strait of Hormuz. They neutralized Iran's naval fleet. They also have almost completely neutralized them as a whole. And yet these insurance companies like Lloyd's of London have decided not to insure these tankers full of oil getting through the Strait of Hormuz.
Right.
They may not have officially closed the strait, but they've figured out a way to tremendously slow it down, which in the end raises the price, which then looks like this president is doing something to raise the price.
Which
when in
he's
fact
not.
He's not. No.
Yeah.
And
in fact, what we're doing here, RT, look, and I'm going to point my fingers at the manipulators in London, too. You mentioned New York a couple times. They're just as guilty in London when they cancel insurance on these boats, knowing what that will do because they don't like Donald Trump. That's a fact. Here's the deal. If they can drive up gas prices before the midterms, that will impact voting in America. They know that. But what Donald Trump is doing here is settling a score after 47 years, returning stability to the Middle East. At least I hope so. That's the effort. That's, I believe, the main push here is to get a stabilization of the Middle East. If that happens, we'll be set up for decades. If the Middle East is calm and the oil comes out of Iran, Iraq, Bahrain, wherever, and it's steady and it's consistent, that'll lower the price in the world market. Plus, Donald Trump did something else. He said, we're going to look after the oil to make sure China gets it. To make sure China gets, not us, China, because he wants to make sure their economy is okay too. This is a global strategy from where I sit. Your thoughts?
This absolutely is a global strategy, and to try to work backwards there. When he says he wants to make China gets this oil, absolutely. And China's going to get this oil at the value market rate, Steve. They have been purchasing oil from Iran, Venezuela, and Russia for 30 to 50% off the market price for years now. and that is unacceptable. What happened yesterday to bring down the price of oil, President Trump, along with the G7, which includes Spain, France, Britain, and other countries like Canada, to tap into their reserves to bring down that price. And also, we removed 30 sanctions for the next 30 days on Russian oil, just so that we can get more oil onto the market. And then when you talk about Iran, this is a 47-year conflict of literally people that don't know you and don't know me that want to kill us and our children just because we're Americans. Okay,
that's exactly
the
right.
crude truth. And
Yeah.
so what he has done is absolutely squash this right now. But also, I do believe that we're going to see the same exact thing that happened in Venezuela when I was on here, Steve, that the United States will control that oil, which then in case they will control the money. The money from Venezuela goes through the banks in Qatar. It doesn't go through the banks of London. And I expect the same thing to happen with Iran. And to get a little speculative on my own, they're saying that will cut down $2 billion with a billion with a B, excuse me, $2 billion going towards terrorism every year out of Iran just by the United States controlling their oil, their main economic.
That's correct. And just like we didn't hit Venezuelan oil fields, we haven't hit Iranian oil fields. Those countries need that oil to rebuild when it's all over and said and done. RT, good conversation. Glad to have you here. We're on the same page. It's manipulation from London, New York, speculators, and fearmongers, and those that hate Donald Trump. Greatly appreciated, RT. We'll talk again soon, my friend.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. RT Trevino from Pecos Country Oil here with us. Look, I said on all my social media platforms early yesterday morning that it was all BS. You know why I said it? Because it's true. It's manipulation by people trying to make big profits. Oil companies will make record profits this year if they continue to be allowed to play these sorts of games. And they are games at your expense and mine. Here's someplace that Donald Trump can reel in those billionaire friends of his. I'll take a break, and when I come back, we'll have sports with Brock. All right, let's check in on sports now with Brock Palmbush.
With a look at sports, I'm Brock Palmbush. 5 games in the NBA last night. Winners were Brooklyn, Cleveland, Oklahoma City, Utah, and the LA Clippers. 5 games in the NHL last night. Winners were the New York Rangers, Washington, Ottawa, Chicago, and Los Angeles. In men's college basketball, 2 more bids to the NCAA tournament went out. Troy won the Sun Belt Conference tourney, while Furman won the Southern Conference tourney. In women's basketball, Connecticut won the Big East tournament, James Madison the Sun Belt tourney, Jacksonville the Atlantic Sun tourney, and Fairfield won the Metro Atlantic tournament. At the World Baseball Classic, the United States moved to 3-0 in pool play with a 5-3 victory over Mexico last night in Houston. Aaron Judge and Roman Anthony homered for the Americans, who play Italy tonight in Houston. And Super Bowl MVP Kenneth Walker III has agreed to a 3-year, $43 million deal with the Kansas City Chiefs. That's a look at sports. Back to you, Steve.
All right, Brock. I'm going to sound like your friend Tim Stout here, Brock, when I say, why do we have these conference tournaments anymore? They don't really mean anything, do they? I guess unless an underdog comes through and has a spurt and can get into the big dance. I guess that's the only thing, right?
Yeah, that's how Furman, mentioned Furman. The Purple Paladins got into the tournament, or in the NCAA.
From Greenville, South Carolina, Furman University. Come on down, yeah.
Indeed. Detroit Mercy trying to win the Horizon League tournament with just over a 500 record. They're going to play for that tonight. And it's also for teams that are kind of on the NCAA bubble that can play their way into the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, who in the Big Ten is on the bubble? How many Big Ten teams, how many SEC teams, how many ACC teams?
My goodness.
There's a math
As far
test.
as the Big Ten goes, there's about 3 maybe. Indiana's one. USC's on the bad side right now. I think UCLA and Ohio State were on the bubble, but they're pretty much in now. So, the SEC, who knows? And the ACC, who knows?
Right. Fair enough.
Yeah, it's
All
crazy. And it's March. It's supposed to be crazy.
I guess Michigan would be favored to win this tournament, but it doesn't matter a lot. Like you said, they get to the end of the tournament, they're going to be number 1 seed, doesn't matter.
If they get to Sunday, they're the number 1 seed in the Midwest region, that's the goal.
And who's the overall number 1 seed?
That would be Duke, more than likely.
Yeah, they did beat Michigan in D.C. just a couple of weeks ago. Brock, thank you. As always, a little sports update for you. Look, it's March Madness. Yeah, sometimes I play with basketball brackets. It's coming soon. So it's another hour of the Steve Gruber Show, straight ahead.
From the heart of America, where hard work, freedom, and faith still define who we are. From the farms to the factories, from small towns to city streets, this is the fight for the soul of our nation.
We're watching Democrats attack democracy. Do not be fooled.
The strength, the grit, the greatness of the American spirit, all right here.
The left wanted power, not peace, but there's a resistance rising. A generation saying enough, enough. We've tried it their way, and it failed.
The Steve Gruber Show with your host, Steve Gruber, starts right now.
And here we go, digging into another big hour here of the program, fighting for you from this foxhole of freedom that we defend America first every single day and give you better perspectives and analysis than anywhere else. Three big things this hour. Number one, 5 weeks now. Nancy Guthrie missing. She's not coming back. Number two, the TSA shutdown sparking chaos at some airports. Houston waiting 4 hours or more. And number three, it is primary day in Georgia 14, where Marjorie Taylor Greene quit 1 day after she qualified for her pension from Congress and has gone off the rails in her attacks on President Trump, her former friend and colleague. She campaigned for him hard, but she is completely anti-war. She is totally against the incursion into Iran, among other things. She's also very loud about the Epstein files and what they may mean and what they are and whether they should be released and so forth, right? So we'll see what happens in Georgia 14. There are a whole herd of candidates. There's like a dozen Republicans, a Democrat, 3 Libertarians, and so much more in the race. There will be a runoff June 14th for the Republicans. We'll see how that plays out. But make no mistake, as we head into the midterms, the Democrats want one thing. They want to punish Donald Trump and anybody who supported him. That's what they want. They want to punish Donald Trump and anyone who supported him. How do I know? Because they say so. Susan Rice, one of Obama's longtime close advisors, says so. Senator John Kennedy responds to those threats here. Listen.
What Ms. Rice seems to be saying is that it's okay in America today to use the law to prosecute and harass your political enemies. I find that astounding, coming from a person of her stature. That's the sort of thing that doesn't happen in America. That's the sort of thing that's only supposed to happen in countries whose Powerball jackpot is 287 chickens and a goat. Not America. We believe in the rule of law. We believe in equal protection. We believe nobody is above the law, but nobody's beneath it. I can't think of a more irresponsible statement for somebody to make.
Well, your Powerball jackpot is 287 chickens and a goat. Yeah, and a goat, right? Anyhow, that's Senator John Kennedy. Yeah, they want revenge, but if you think the Democrat Party is all set up to win the midterms, you might want to take a step back. The Democrat Party is not nearly united, as they'd have you believe. And in new polling, they are less popular than Republicans. Less popular. And at the funeral of Jesse Jackson, 3 former presidents showed up: Bill Clinton, Barack Obama, and Joe Biden. Jesse Jackson Jr. was not impressed by their performance. Listen to this.
When I ran for the presidency in 84 and 88, and many others thought it was either laughable or something to avoid, he came to our business meeting here in New York because he has this sense of the curious and a will to risk to make things better. And so aside from all of his style and his pizzazz, he's a serious person who is an effective builder of building for the builder people. Last year, he was a part of our workshop, of our panel workshop on what are the challenges and opportunities. And so this, a year later, Donald Trump, for a few minutes, challenges and opportunities to embrace the underserved communities. Donald Trump.
Jesse Jackson Jr. would have been a lot more impressed if Donald Trump had been the only former president and current president elected to his father's funeral. Because what he said was, and you see how Jesse Jackson thought about Donald Trump. And that's just one example. There's piles of tape of those two together, working to help underserved communities, as they say, right? Underprivileged communities. Jesse Jackson Jr. tore into Clinton, Obama, and Biden for making it about themselves. Really, Anthony? Really? Uh-huh. Anthony's playing games for those of you on the streaming feed because he wants to see my co-anchor. And nothing about being serious. He's being tomfoolery right now. Yeah. This is what I deal with. Tomfoolery in there and tomfoolery out here. Yeah. I have a cat laying on the desk. It's true. He's incorrigible this morning. Anyhow. Let's see here. Moving on. John Solomon, we mentioned this in the first hour, my good friend who runs justthenews.com, is calling out the Chinese government for interfering in American elections dating back years and years, but mostly he's looking at 2020, 22, and 24. The Chinese have been involved in manipulating our elections for years. That's the story coming out, and the rumor is Donald Trump has a 17-page executive order sitting on his desk to call the Chinese out for this. That's why the SAVE Act is so important. Listen.
The CIA and the FBI are going to always thwart the American people. They're always going to hide the truth from the American people. When you see these intelligence files on foreign intervention, you're going to go, how in God's name could they not have told us 6 years ago, 5 years ago, 4 years ago, 3 years ago? And I also think that these files that come out later this week or early next week will have an impact on senators. Those who are reluctant to pass the Save America Act will suddenly have a personal local reason to want to support the SAVE Act because of the fact that their state may have been a victim of some mal-influence operations by one or two foreign powers.
One or two, but mostly one foreign power. China. Go ahead. Take the wide shot again, Anthony. Go ahead. You know you wanna. Yeah, this is what I have to deal with. You know, that's why we're looking for a new studio space so that I can be free from manipulation from pets inside the home studio. You have no idea what we deal with here every single day. First I have to deal with Anthony, and then I have to deal with little Kitty, and then I have to deal with, you. Yeah, is that it? Okay. Oh, boy. Really? Okay, take the one shot.
He loves you.
Take the one shot. There, yeah, there he is. Yeah. Mm-hmm. He lays right on my keyboard. It's the Steve Gruber Show with my co-host, Little Kitty, on a Tuesday. Good Lord. I'll be right back. You. All right, here we go. Boblo Island, and if I hadn't, Katie Hyde and I were just talking in the break. She's from Michigan News Source. She's the news director there. She joins me now. Katie, good morning. Boblo Island is this big island next to Mackinac Island, right? About 100 people live there, but it's spelled Boisblank. I had no idea it was pronounced Boblo. Thankfully, we have a smart team working for us in northern Michigan, because I would have said Boisblank. Anyhow.
Yes. Yeah, named by the French, Steve. And I watched a little video last night just to brush up on my Boblo Island skills. And they said it was named from the French, but the people that live there don't care. They pronounce it the way they want.
Yeah, well, the biggest crime in Boblo Island memory occurred last night. A guy held up in his house after shooting his neighbor's house with his neighbors in it, apparently. That's still a crime, even on Boblo Island. Only about 100 people live there. I mean, it's remote, Katie. If you want to write a book or nap for like a week, this is the place, I think. Anyhow, I don't have the suspect's name, but he was firing shots through the walls of his neighbor's house. That's still illegal, by the way, for those of you keeping score at home. He is in custody. It's a developing story, but we got that because we have really great connections all across the state. Our team really worked great last night getting that done, didn't they?
They did. We have fabulous reporters. I love our connections in northern Michigan. They were listening to the dispatch audio, and we were able to get that firsthand. So if you want to find out about that story and any of the other great stories that we write about, head to MichiganNewsSource.com. We're also on Facebook, Twitter, and Truth Social.
Well done. See how she slides that right in there? See, like a professional. She gets it right in there. All right, so here's something that I saw, and I didn't know this either. I got it from MichiganNewsSource.com. Why? Because I don't get all the stories either. I rely on a great team. Here's the headline. Jackson High School substitute teacher runs away with the LA Marathon. Really?
Isn't that amazing? Good for him. And if you watch the video of this man running, it's Nathan Martin. He's 36 years old. He's a substitute teacher at Jackson High School, and he's also the track and cross country coach. So that makes a little sense about why he ran the LA Marathon. But if you look at the video that we post on our web, the announcers have written him off. They have the first place guy, Nathan Martin, is back a little bit, and they're saying that this is how the race is going to end. And all of a sudden, Nathan Martin just books it. He's already run 26.1 miles. He's got to finish that last little bit, and he goes up and has a photo finish and wins the marathon. It's just amazing to watch, and good for him. In 2 hours, 10 minutes, and some sort of seconds. And I have a husband who has run marathons for 30-some years.
Yeah.
He is very good. He can tell you that 2 hours and 10 minutes is an extremely good time.
Yeah, 2 hours, 11 minutes, 18 seconds, overtaking Kenya's Michael Kamau, who was, by the announcer saying, Kamau's got this. Well, Kamau doesn't have this.
No.
Some substitute teacher from Jackson, Michigan just blew his doors off by this much, but he still won.
What a great lesson for athletes and everyone.
Never give in.
Yeah.
Yeah, and your husband, has run marathons for years, which is why he should seek mental help immediately. Yeah, I'm not a runner, Katie. I'm not a. That's why they built the internal combustion engine, in my estimation. That's why we have that thing.
No, he runs them. He loves them, and I love cheering for him. His best one was 2 hours and 40-some minutes. I'm just extremely proud of him. But if I ran a marathon, I'd be picked up by the golf cart people doing the sweep at the end. So I'll gladly go and cheer.
I could do it in 2 weeks, 11 hours, and 18 minutes.
Right.
Anyhow, let's see. A more serious story out of Clawson, Michigan today. And boy, does she get ripped by some of the speakers. A woman refuses to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance during the meeting. I mean, what is wrong with these? Are public officials who are openly, if I may be so bold, giving the middle finger to America and to their community, right?
We reached out to Heather Rinkovich. She's the city council member there from Clawson who did not stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. And we asked for more clarification on why she didn't stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. In the video recorded during the council meeting, she said, quote, "Words have meaning to me. I cannot stand an affirmation of those words unless I believe we are living up to them," unquote. And the question I have is, what would have to happen in order for you to stand? What changes would have to be made? And we hear this a lot, Steve, that there are, until X, Y, and Z is rectified, we will not stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
To hell
America
with 'em.
has never been a perfect country, and no one has ever claimed that. We stand for the pledge because we love our country, and we are eternally grateful to the men and women who have sacrificed for the rights that we have. That's why we stand.
Amen. Mic drop. Bam. Well done, Katie. I mean, one nation. We are still one nation under God. As we sit here today, we are still one nation under God, and I find it reprehensible. She should resign, in my estimation, or the people of Clawson should toss her out on her ear, which I think they probably will, by the way. Small town America still believes in this country. We still believe in this country. We believe in Michigan. And you know, it's a simple, silly thing. And the last thing I want to get to, Erica Kirk is going to be the commencement speaker for Hillsdale College, the widow of Charlie Kirk, who was gunned down in front of people at Utah Valley University September the 10th, 2025. What do you make of this?
I think it's a great move for Hillsdale and for anyone sitting in that audience, for the graduates, of course. Charlie Kirk had a connection to Hillsdale beyond just supporting the institution. He took dozens of their online courses where he learned more in-depth history and politics and religion and how the country works. And those are courses that you can take online for free. You can give a donation, but anyone can take those courses, and you don't have to be working towards a degree. And Charlie Kirk did not have a college degree, but believed that life was spent best learning and continuing to learn to help him be a better person and a better husband and father and an American. And so that connection is extremely strong. And I think Hillsdale made a very good move, and the graduates certainly have an excellent speaker to listen to.
There you go. And you can find out more about this story and all the stories we just discussed. MichiganNewsSource.com. Katie and the team working their tails off every day for you. Whether it's Boblo Island or Hillsdale or all points in between, including the Great Upper Peninsula. MichiganNewsSource.com. Katie, thank you.
Thank you.
Greatly appreciate it. Yeah, check it out. MichiganNewsSource.com. A template that can be scaled across the United States. That's what it is. Statewide news, local news, news that matters to you. MichiganNewsSource.com. I'll be right back. All right, so the TSA shutdown creating havoc for some travelers trying to get in and out of the airport in Houston, Texas. Waits in line were 4 hours for some passengers just trying to get on their flights. Many missed flights, obviously. When you're standing in line for 4 hours and you show up 2 hours early, that's not going to work, is it? New Orleans tells passengers to arrive at least 3 hours before flights. So some big airports, New Orleans, Houston, and others really having some problems. Lauren Biss, the DHS Deputy Assistant Secretary for Public Affairs, saying this is the severe fallout from the Democrat shutdown of DHS. We have a partial government shutdown, not affecting a lot of people, but it's affecting TSA, the Coast Guard, FEMA, and other agencies. So if we have elevated security alerts in this country because of what's going on in the Middle East, which we do, and you've decided not to fund TSA, it's pretty clear that airports are being targeted across the Middle East, in Bahrain, the UAE, and elsewhere by the Iranian regime. One would think that they would target airports in America too. For example, And yet the Democrats, led by Chuck Schumer, say they will not fund DHS, period. They're not going to. Kristi Noem gets fired. No, that's not good enough. Until we stop deporting illegal aliens, they're not going to fund DHS. Isn't that remarkable, considering that ICE and Customs and Border Patrol are funded through 2029, part of the big, beautiful bill, right? So they're funded through 2029. None of this has any impact whatsoever on the deportations of illegals in this country. None whatsoever. And yet the Democrats continue to put you at risk, me at risk, because they're not funding key government agencies. Anyhow, if you're going to travel, you might want to reach out to your airport, figure out what the waits are like, talk to your airline, ask how early I need to show up for my flight. Checking in advance might cause you less headache on a travel day, and travel days are already tough enough, so less headaches and planning ahead, a big thing to do right now. I'll take a break and be back. It is the Steve Gruber Show. All right, so we talked about FEMA not being funded, right? So, like I said, that doesn't affect a lot of people, but it does affect some people. It affects people in Michigan because we're still recovering in northern Michigan from a massive ice storm that happened last year. The damage extensive, worst ice storm in like a century. Massive amounts of broken trees and problems. And FEMA is now out of the loop on that, says my next guest, State Representative Cam Cavett. Cam, nice to see you again.
Hey, thanks. Glad to be here, Steve.
So what's going on with FEMA, or what's not going on, should I say?
Well, what's not going on is the Democratic in the Senate that aren't going to fund Homeland Security, and that's where FEMA's at. Some of the folks downstate just had this tornado, and, we've been waiting for some relief up north for going on a year at the end of this month.
Yeah, it's a remarkable amount of damage, and I said a year ago, and I'll say it again now, we could see a wildfire like Michigan has not seen in a long time if we have dry conditions. And look, winter has ended early down here. The little groundhog was wrong, all right? Winter ended early. It's been warm. If it stays warm and dry this year like it was last year, you can see a real big fire in northern Michigan, and you're not getting the resources you need right now to fix it because the Democrats have shut down DHS, right?
That's correct. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Well, what a disaster. Meanwhile, government regulations, front and center, Cam. A Rogers City lemonade stand is being charged $57. A lemonade stand charged $57 from the health department. Do these people not have something better to do?
Yeah, it's kind of sad. And let me preface that a little. It's not the Rogers City Farmers Market, Steve. It's the Department of Health 4, Michigan Department of Health 4, that is charging the kids $57. And you know what, Steve? The statutory rate is only $9.
So what
somehow
gives?
they seem that they think that they can make up. And this is all, there's problems in there where they had lost over $1 million due to financial malfeasance. They fired their director, and they've raised fees to try and raise money back.
So District Health Department number 4, releasing a statement, food safety program provides a temporary food service permit to those who qualify, such as a low-risk for-profit lemonade stand operating at a farmer's market. But that's not what you said. That's not what this is, right?
No, that's what it is, but it's not the Rogers City Farmers Market. They're a great group of individuals. I don't want them to take the heat. It's the District Health that's coming in there and forcing them to do this.
Yeah. This is to me, just a symptom of a bigger problem. Too much government, too much regulation, too much interference. These are kids running a lemonade stand, right?
That's correct.
And so... Yeah. So they're going to pay taxes probably because the government won't let them get away with selling lemonade without getting their chunk of the juice, if you will. And then you're going to charge them $57. I don't know if you make $57 in a day on a lemonade stand. Maybe you do. But this is
the problem.
Egregious. Yeah.
That's the problem. And, there's a waiver for veterans. Veterans only have to pay the $9, but there is no waiver for age.
Interesting. And there's no waiver at all. So... how do we fix it is my question to you, sir.
Well, it's a legislative fix. We're going to make sure that there's a waiver for kids so that they can get this. They're not going to get around the craft food laws at all. They're going to have to hold it. But these are homeschool kids, and they're learning about government and what government does and civics. And government's got to be a line item in their business plan, unfortunately. Taxes.
There's your civics lesson.
12 years old.
Yeah, there's your civics lesson, kids. Too much government is a problem. Too much government is a problem. And look, we get food safety. I get all of that. But the fact of the matter is we have regulations in this state. I'm going to go up beyond this. If you lay carpet, I don't think you have to be licensed in Michigan. But if you put down tile, you do. If you cut hair, you have to have all these massive licenses and training and blah, blah. Look. The free market will sort out who cuts hair. It will. I don't need somebody to have a license to cut hair because if I get a lousy haircut, I'm never going back, and neither is anybody else. They're out of business, right? I just see all this egregious overreach. When I was born, about 5% of the people in Michigan, you got to have your doctors have to be licensed, your architects, there's certain things you want licensing for. But 5% of the people in Michigan had to have a license to go to work in 1965. That has gone up several times over. They regulate everything. They want a license for everything you do, right?
I'm in agreement.
Yeah. So how do we fix that? I mean, I'm gonna hope that on the lemonade stand, you have bipartisan support to do something about this. But what about all these other regulations? Cutting hair, for example.
Here's another one for you, Steve. It's illegal. A lot of entry-level kids at farmers markets, country kids will come in and they'll repackage bird seed for different species and put them in a bag and sell the bag. Like this is cardinal seed, this is chickadee seed. You're not allowed to repackage bird seed. It's a health violation.
Oh, please. So here's my question. Do politicians wake up in the middle of the night with a notebook and write down the silliest thing they thought of all night long? Is that what they do? I mean, repackaging bird seed is not legal because of health violations?
These aren't politicians. These are medical bureaucrats. They're not nurses. They're not doctors. They're just trying to make a buck off the American people.
Yeah, well, it seems to be working. Again, if you license everybody that goes to work, it's a money grab. Is it anything besides a money grab?
No. All they're doing is having a talk with these kids and then giving them the sheet of paper for $57.
$57.
If they would buy a gallon of Tropicana and pour it into a cup, they would get around all of this. But because they make lemons and add sugar and water, it creates a controversy. But what do people want at a farmer's market? They want the real thing.
Yeah, they certainly do. Anyhow, great civics lesson, Cam. What else is going on this week in Lansing? Give me a preview. Anything big that I need to know about?
Well, we're doing, you talked about all those, the over-regulations. We got a lot of bills dropping that are going to try and streamline some of those, especially in the hair space. Those people are way over-regulated. And you got a good fighter in Angela Regas out there. She comes from that. She got a ticket from the state police on the Capitol grounds for giving haircuts during COVID. Yeah. So she's very passionate about that. We've got a green bill coming up. My veterans bill is going to be in committee this week, which is very similar to the Amber Alert, which will help our veterans who are distressed. We're losing 22 veterans a day to suicide, Steve, and we need to do something about it. And hopefully this green alert bill I'm working on will do that also. Kratom is another product that we're talking about down here now.
Poison.
I think we're going to do a ban in that.
Well, is that bipartisan, I hope?
Very much so, yes.
Yeah.
In both houses. So that might actually move. We won't have the friction like we do between the Senate and the House right now with their separation of powers lawsuits.
Yeah, just because it's sitting on the counter at the gas station doesn't mean it's safe. I would avoid that stuff like the plague. Cam Cavett, always appreciate talking to you. We'll see what happens this week in Lansing. Thank you.
All right. Appreciate you, Steve. Thank you.
Appreciate you. Too much regulation.
Yes,
you're going
sir.
to stick the kids with $57 fees. Come on now. When we come back, no extra charge. Ivy is here. I'll be right back. So I was doing a little bit of quick research here on licensing. Ivy's with me. Ivy, good morning. I don't know if you heard about the kids having to pay $57 for their lemonade stand, right?
I did not, but my goodness.
Yeah.
Why?
$57 because it's it's a food product, and so therefore Michigan District Health Department number 4 released a statement saying that they have to charge $57 to 12-year-olds selling lemonade. Anyhow.
That's a whole lot of lemonade they have to sell just to meet the
Amen.
fee.
And then they have to pay taxes, of course, for what they earn. So in 1965, a year I keep going back to, in Michigan, 4% of the people that went to work, 4% had to have a license. Doctors, dentists, architects, that sort of thing. Right now, so 4% of the people that went to work on a Monday morning in Michigan in 1965 had to have a license. Today it's 25%. And in fact, a study found that 178 out of 331 occupations requires a license in Michigan. So half the jobs you could have. Now, some of those are smaller industries and, big industries like retail.
Yeah.
You don't need a license. So it comes out to 1 person in 4 going to work today in Michigan has to have a license.
And these licenses are pretty expensive, right?
Yeah, I mean, you look at a cosmetology. Like I talk about cutting hair a lot, right? Look, the free market will decide whether or not you deserve to cut hair. I don't. If you go get a lousy haircut, are you going back?
No.
No. The free market will figure that out.
Right.
I can't remember which way it was. It's one way or the other. If you install carpet, you don't need a license, but if you install tile, you do. So if you put in this kind of flooring, no license. This kind of flooring, need a license. I mean,
That doesn't make any sense. There's no rhyme or reason.
no. Anyhow.
Well, and then, the hair braiders, that, you just go in and you get, like my niece particularly likes to go and get her hair braided all the time, and they need a license for that, don't they?
Yeah, and in fact, they finally changed it in Michigan, but it's still true in some states. Traditional hair styling,
right,
as you would be talking about. You needed all of this training and $1,800 in fees and so on and so forth.
That's ridiculous.
Even though they didn't teach anything about what we're talking about.
Unfortunately, I don't think there's any rewinding this, unless we really get someone in there that says, okay, this is a little ridiculous, but as soon as you start receiving money from taxpayers, and in this case, through fees for licensing, rewinding that and removing that is going to be very difficult, in my opinion.
Yeah, so here are the people that need to be licensed in America. Not all these. Barbers and cosmetologists, massage therapists, interior designers, auctioneers, like my auctioneer.
What do you need a license to do that for?
It's here. So anyhow, licensing is 5 times higher today.
Oh my goodness. I mean, I get it. If you're an electrician and you're dealing with...
It's a money grab. Well, an electrician, fine.
Yeah. Doctor, makes sense.
Fine. Dentist, good. Architect building my a skyscraper, got it.
Right.
An auctioneer, a barber, come on.
Right.
It's a money grab, and it just shows how much money is generated. And by the way, so let me just show you the ramp up. 5%, 4 or 5% in 1965, 18% in the year 2000, 25% today. Pretty soon there'll be a license. You'll have to have your employment license.
Right.
Just for across the board, $100 a year employment license. So they can make even more money. It's a tax, and it's reprehensible. Anyhow, what do you got?
I want to read you something, and I want your take on it. Today, in my opinion, we are technologically hyper-connected.
True.
But psychologically attention fragmented.
Lonely people. Everybody's got a social media account, and people are more lonely than they've ever been.
Technologically hyper-connected.
Agreed.
But psychologically attention fragmented.
I think that's true.
I think that humans, we're not really meant to have all of this stimuli all the time. We're not, we can have information any second of the day, whenever we want it, and we're getting bombarded with information every day.
Much of it false.
That's why you tune into the Steve Gruber Show.
That's right.
But yes, I think the reality is we are the most connected and disconnected society, and it's really sad. I was actually having a conversation last night at Bible study with another woman, and she had said she was just fears for her son because the other kids his age, just like their parents, they're so busy, they don't have time to hang out. He never gets to hang out with other kids. And I think this is true for a lot of families, a lot of young people, and even for adults. You think about, you look years past and you're like, man, where did the time go? Did I even hang out with my friends? Did I go have dinner with them? Or how about even just my spouse or my sister or my family?
Whomever.
And when you start to really look at it, it's kind of frightening how we just are so consumed by information and shows on whatever it is, Netflix, name your thing.
Right. Short-circuiting.
More attention and give more of your time to your device than you do with people.
Yeah.
And I really think that we have to take a moment. We're not meant to be this busy. We're not meant to have all this information all the time. And maybe begin to like, hey, let's unplug. Let's actually begin to come together as communities again. And I think that would actually heal a lot of
loneliness, despair, anxiety.
Yeah, all of this stuff that we're facing.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think these devices have short-circuited our relationships.
Yeah.
Intentionally, I might add.
Absolutely. I think it is very intentional. I think it is intentional so that we're distracted. We're too busy. These human connections that we are really meant to have. We're communal people. We're not meant to be alone. So I think it's so important to really, let's take a moment and I think be purposeful about spending time with others.
I could not possibly agree more. That's why, as you know, I attempt, not always successfully, but attempt to disconnect every Friday at 5 for at least 25 hours. Turn the phone off.
Yeah.
Because the constant
right, and it's you pick it up and you're like, what is that? What is that? What is that?
And usually it's completely pointless.
Right, and we're a society too that is so contingent upon results. Right, so if we're not achieving something every second of the day, we feel like we're a failure.
Right. Hey, you want to have lunch today?
I'd love that.
All right, can we set our phones aside?
Please.
Perfect.
I'll be there.
All right, Anthony, let's do it.
You can do it. Love you, Ivy.
I love you too.
All right, we'll take a break. Final thoughts after this. The conversation in the break was about the price of gasoline. Anthony said he saw it at $3.69 at a Speedway station and asked me if the price of gas is going to come down. Here's what I know, so let me share this with you. For every $10 increase in a barrel of oil, gas goes up about 25 cents. Oil today is at about $87. It was $67 before we started this operation in Iran, so that would mean plus 50 cents. And Anthony, you said gas was about $2.89, right?
Yeah, before it spiked.
So we should come back to $3.39, maybe a little bit less. That's what it should do, based on $87 oil. And I think as we proceed and the United States Navy, along with insurance carriers, get into this operation of moving oil through the Strait of Hormuz, then the price of gasoline and oil should continue to recede. There's no question that what was happening is the oil companies were manipulating the price. Oil today right now is at 90. It just touched 90, but it's still down 5% from 24 hours ago. So we'll see where it goes. But at 90, you should be at about $3.39, roughly, in Michigan. Other states will be cheaper, of course, but we'll keep an eye on this. And don't forget that oil during the Biden administration was $139 a barrel. I don't remember Chuck Schumer screaming about $139 a barrel oil then. And remember, when that happened, Joe Biden was draining the Strategic Petroleum Reserve and then refused to refill it when oil became cheap again. Refused. Now, why is that? Why would you refuse to resupply what you took to artificially decrease the price of gasoline? For political reasons. You know, you got to ask yourself, what are the games being played? It's all politics. But in the end, it is supply and demand. Right now, we have a tremendous supply. There is no deficit of oil available. There's no deficit of gasoline available. This is the oil companies making record profits. They will post record profits at your expense this year by using the war in Iran as an excuse that's not valid. Fight the good fight and keep the faith, my friends. God bless America. I'm Steve Gruber. This is The Steve Gruber Show. And remember, only you can save America.